also. So, okay, good evening, everybody. It is time. We are at Parent Talk by Sipping Thoughts, and we have a very beautiful, very giving guest with us, and very knowledgeable guest with us. That is Dr. Fiona Diaz. She's a director of NGO Seeds of Awareness and Research Foundation. She is also the director of NGO 17,000 Feet Foundation. So, one thing I got to know about her that she has donated 50% of her wealth. So I request our audience to just say something to her. We are very proud of you, Dr. Fiona, and you are actually an inspiration. So welcome to the show, Dr.
Thank you. Thank you.
So this is your host, Minal Goel. I'm a career counselor and a Vedic math expert, and also a host at Sipping Thoughts, and I love doing my work. And today we're going to talk about how to sensitively talk to teens about dating, relationship, and sex. So welcome to our audience. We do this show on mostly every Monday. So do register for our shows. And so Dr. Fiona, I have two children. Now they're teenagers, but I remember कि जब वो छोटे थे और मूवी में कोई सेक्स का सीन आ जाता था या कुछ होता था, then we used to send them कि पानी लेकर आ जाओ या वो सीन फॉरवर्ड कर देते थे. So I always wonder how do we or when do we start talking to them? What is the right time?
So actually there isn't really, I can't really tell you, it's a tough one. There's not really a right time. But before I start, thank you very much for having me on the show. And I enjoy being associated with Sipping Thoughts because you'll bring out some really lovely speakers to, make us think about different things that sometimes you just take for granted in your everyday life, right? And sometimes you know how to navigate, you think you know how to navigate things, but when you hear somebody else's point of view and perspective, it just gives you a different way of looking at the same thing. So thank you very much for that. But coming back to your question, yes, adults usually are, especially here in India, we do see this a lot, that the moment we have something that is, it's not very comfortable for us to see it in front of our children, we get uncomfortable, right? And what are you doing at that point of time that you are sending your kid away to get a glass of water, etc.? They've seen the start of that sex scene, and then you're sending them away, right? So what are you showing them at that point of time? You're actually telling them, you're giving them that message that this is something taboo and we cannot speak about it. And therefore I have to send you away, okay? They're not saying that in so many words inside their head, but that is the message that they're getting, that something like this, if I see something like this, we cannot talk about it, right? And we can definitely not talk about it in front of my parents because my parents are the ones who are sending me away. So when things like this happen, it is our body language that is speaking to the children. Okay, the moment we tense up, we start looking at each other, we have these weird smiles on our faces that, oh gosh, like did this have to come out right now? That kind of stuff. You're actually giving a message to a child that all this that you're seeing is not natural. And that is actually the wrong message. What you're seeing on screen is something absolutely natural. Well, how it is portrayed and to what extent is portrayed, of course, is something that you would like to expose your child to in kind of, in steps or in stages rather than all at the same time. However, I think the best way to do it is just go ahead and, watch the scene with the child. And if the child says, oh, mommy, they're kissing or something like that, you just have to reply to the kid, but, they're showing that they care for each other. And that is another way in which, say, a mom and a dad show that they care for each other. And they may ask you a very embarrassing question and you and daddy do it also. And if you do not, express yourself that way in front of the children, you can always be honest with them and talk to them and tell them, yes, that's what dad and I do, but we don't make it public to everybody. And what is also that telling them that you're being honest. And that is another value that you're inculcating in them. You're not hiding things because they're looking up to you as an idol. You are the person that they are going to, they emulate in many more ways than you think that they will, right? And it is amazing to see how they will follow exactly the way you live your life. So the moment you show them and you're honest with them and you show them, yeah, this is natural, this is what people do when they care about each other, etc. Leave it at that. Don't go into detail. You don't have to tell them that this is a sex scene or this is something that only, or even if they ask you, you can just say this is something that grown-ups do. And you also will do that when you're grown up. So, you're just giving them this casual, you're throwing a casual thought at them that's saying, okay, this is nothing to be like, getting all het up about or giggling about, because this is something natural. Okay, so I don't think there is a particular age in which you say it. So if it is an instance that has happened, it's given you, actually, it's wonderful because it gives you an opportunity to start a conversation or to basically make it sound as if it's natural. It happens, right? So you are taking out the taboo out of a topic that is so natural and should not be a taboo topic. Yeah.
So another common question that my children kept asking me is, how are children born,
Right.
And we haven't discussed the sex part of it, or we have not been very casual about showing them the sex and talking about it. So how do we address that question? How are children born?
So Minal, I don't know whether you attended my previous Sipping Thoughts chat where we talked about how to talk to children about sex. Yeah. So I will just kind of, summarize what I spoke there. And again, I say that, you don't start talking to them about sex and relationships when they ask you. You start much before, when they're little, by having open conversations with them, so that a line of communication is open. The very fact that they're coming to you and asking you how are children born, it also depends on what age they are at that they're asking you that question. A small child of say 5, if you tell them that there is a small seed in the female or the mother, and then there is another seed in the father, they come together and a baby is born, they're going to be happy with that. You don't have to go into details, right? But as they grow older, you're going to add a little bit more, and it's only when they come into, because a child does not understand sexual feelings. A small child will not understand, will not have that sexual, as they say, malice in them, that, this is how I feel when my mother is telling me about, how a child is born. But however, when they get into puberty, that is when the hormones are making them, experience all those feelings, right? So at that point of time, it's okay to go a little deeper and dwell into a little more detail. And for that, I think the child has to be, and you have to be very comfortable with your anatomy, because the anatomy is what you're going to explain to the child of how kids are born, because it involves the anatomy, it involves the reproductive organs, it involves calling certain organs by their name and no nicknames. Okay, so you don't have your pet names that you did when they were kids. You call them by the biological given name, so that you are taking away the taboo and you're taking away that stigma that is basically associated with not talking about it, because it's a topic that either grown-ups talk about, or we don't talk about this with our parents. Okay, so you need to tell them, yes, but very important is that you have to be comfortable first. And to be comfortable, you need to get rid of your own biases. You need to get rid of your own conditionings, because put your child first, don't put yourself first, because you may be a little, or the parent may be a little, um, I would say, embarrassed to talk about it openly. You are, through your body language, you're showing that to the child, and the child says, okay, these are topics I cannot ask my mother. Or if I ask her, I don't know whether I'm going to get everything and all the answers because she looks really embarrassed, right? So they're going to go to other places to get their information, and those places may not be safe places to get their information. So it's very important. It's a lot of hard work on the parent themselves to be able to get the child to be comfortable with this topic, right? And for that, I think you need to work on yourself.
Right. So this show is all about, we parents are learning through these shows. That is the idea. So, Dr. Fiona, if, like, say I have not been very open about it when my children were small.
Mhm.
However, they are tweens, but now I'm worried because they are going to get those hormones. Maybe it has already started kicking in.
Right.
Now I find it very difficult to start that conversation. So what now? Like, now what does one do?
Again, be very honest and talk to them and tell them that, you know what, I think I should have had this conversation with you guys much earlier. Um, it's something that we really need to talk about because it's something that is natural. It's something that's beautiful. So put the positivity into what you're going to talk about. Yes. And it is something that's very important that each and every human being knows. Okay. Starting first with your body. Talk to them about the different parts of the body. What are the different, functions of the body? Why are they there? Right. And then talk about, say, there are certain things that society has made taboo, and then so we don't talk about it. And that's unfortunate because this is a very beautiful part of our human existence. Why? Because it allows us to bring new human beings into the earth. And in this way, we do not basically, make our human species go extinct. So you want to introduce the topic to them in a very general way, but tell them that I wish I had this chat with you a little earlier, but now you guys are asking me questions, and I think we need to talk about this, and we need to talk about this openly. um, the moment you show your vulnerability in that way, in a way of honesty, it's amazing how I would say how receptive the children are in whatever you have to say, right? You may not know, exactly what to say. Refer to books. There are so many things on the net that also you can get. You can sit down and look at fabulous videos together. There's a lovely website called amaze.org, and they have lovely little cartoons, and they tell you the whole story in such a lovely way that maybe you could watch it first, then think about it, and then talk to your kids, and then watch it together. So that it kind of it tells them that, hey, listen, you know what, a lot of people are seeing this. It's something that's natural and it happens. There's another website which is called Sex Positive Families, and I think I've asked Damani to put all these resources on the chat. That also is just a fabulous website to just give you an insight of how to approach things, how to talk to kids in stages also. uh, I still remember when my daughter was 10 years old, and I sat down with her and I had this chat. We were in Goa, and I had taken this lovely book with me with lots of pictures in it. And it was one of the books that I used to teach when I was doing my PhD. So it was not one of these, baby books or cartoons or whatever. It was an actual book on the anatomy. And she was fascinated. She was absolutely fascinated. And to date, she says, that was one of the best bonding times I had with you. And she's asked me to leave that book for her in my will. So, so, that is the extent to which she was so receptive. She asked me such fabulous questions, and they're very logical at this point of time. Just before they enter puberty, they're still very logical. When they enter puberty, the hormones take over, and it kind of changes the way they think and the way they behave and the way they act a lot more, right? So if they haven't like kind of reached there yet, I think now is a good time to, to chat with them and talk to them with a book in front, and that will help you and help them. Because see, a lot of times we know what things look like and what they sound like, and maybe what they feel like also, right? But children don't. So you can't talk to them and tell it to them like a story, and without any visuals in front. So when you're talking with visuals, it's not only helping you, because also their concentration is also on the visual. A lot of times parent feels a little embarrassed. Oh my God, the way my kid was looking at me and asking me, and I was trying to show them this. And that also helps in that respect, that both of you are looking into a book or you're looking onto the screen, and use that as a tool or an aid to tell them the bigger story, right? We also, in Seeds of Awareness, we conduct a course which is called Comprehensive Sexual Education and Facilitation, where it is for teachers, it's for parents, it's for, to build capacity for more people to talk about sexuality. And it's a wonderful course that any parent also who's interested can join that course and do it. And it's affiliated to TIS. You get accreditation from TIS for it. It's a 9-month course, and it handles all the ways in which you as a person and an adult can conduct yourself when you're talking to adolescents.
And I usually see it is much easier when I talk to my daughter, whereas when it's talking to the boys, it's like such a difficult thing. Probably they'll shut me down. Like if I go and tell them that, do you know about IPIL, because my daughter is 18 now, she'll go out in college. So, I just wanted to have a conversation. It's like, Mummy, ho chuka hai sex education, in school. So just leave it. I know it types. But, as mothers, we really want to make it sure that, they're getting out in the world, they'll have relationships. Again, my next question is about relationships. How do we tell them to be safe in a relationship, and let's forget all that. What exactly is relationship these days? So that is an important question, right?
So I'll tackle your first question about boys and girls being very different, right? Girls, pretty much they do come and they tell you, what's happening, and how they're feeling, etc. And boys, on the other hand, are quiet, and especially when they're reaching this age, right, of puberty and adolescence. And for this, there are two things that I will focus on. One is that let's go back in history. Okay, boys and men were sent to be hunters and warriors and food gatherers kind of thing, right? And when you're going into the forest, you cannot be a darpok. You have to be brave. You have to show that bravado. Okay, you have to be fit in order to get to what you want to, whether you want to get food for your tribe and your family, or you are fighting a war or whatever. You need to be strong, right? And that has come down the ages, that men need to be strong. That is showing masculinity. That is showing that, I'm not weak. And how they said, the very common saying is that, you'd say boys don't cry. And so you're constantly conditioning the boy from that time onwards, or that you need to be strong at all times. You need to be in charge of whatever's happening. You cannot show vulnerability. And as a result, whatever was meant for that time, which is hunters and gatherers, now we are not hunters and warriors. We are, leading a very, a very peaceful life and a civil life, but we still have to deal with emotions, right? But because they've been so conditioned over the years, that conditioning hasn't changed. However, women, on the other hand, when they were wives or the women of hunters and warriors, they were left, at home, and they were worried. And what would they do when they were worried? They would talk to other people. And who were the other people? The other women, right? So women got into that habit, I think, of talking a lot to other, expressing their emotions and feelings. And that is also continued, right? And therefore, we do see a lot of times that females tend to share more than males do, okay? With males, a lot of times it's also this, this ego that, I need to look cool. I need to show that, I know everything, right? And they also make a, just shrug and say, yeah, I know everything. And, you don't have to talk to me about it, which is fine. And that's where you need to figure out how you talk to your kid. If your kid does not like something directed at them, where the focus is only them and you're only having that conversation with them, perhaps they get a little conscious. Yeah. So back off. And what you do is have a general conversation with the whole family about the same topic, but have a general conversation. And he may not even contribute towards the conversation, which is fine, but he's listening. He's all ears and eyes. And believe me, it's amazing how much they listen. Because now when they're 22 and 23, they tell me about things that I spoke about that and how I held the spoon like this and how I did this and how I did that. And I was not even conscious of it at that time. So, the message is going to them. And what is the message going? That, what? It's okay if you feel this way. That's okay. I'm giving you your space. But it's also okay to talk about these things and talk about it openly and talk about it in a group. So, you're not being singled out. Okay. So I think that is important to let the kid know. On the other hand, I will not say that all girls are also very open, okay, about what they're feeling and what they're doing, etc. I don't think we can generalize that. And why is that? That's mainly because they are seeing the response they're anticipating the response they're going to get from their parent. If they feel the parent is going to be, just blow a fuse or not understand where they're coming from, etc., they're not going to share anything. Or if they share, it'll be like, something very little that doesn't give you really a hint of what they're doing. And that becomes dangerous. Why? Because they may be doing something dangerous that they don't know is dangerous for them. But they're not sharing, so you can't guide them. Okay? At no point of time you want to ever sermonize to a child, because especially in the pubescent years, you want to chat with them and talk to them about different issues. Of course, there are values and there are certain rules of the house that are non-negotiable. And you are the parent and you're responsible for them till they're 18 years old. And therefore, there are certain things that have to be followed. But there are a lot of topics that we have that, we can have a really nice conversation with them. We really need to tap their emotional intelligence and accept the fact that these children are going through puberty. Okay, and that brings me to the second part of your question, where before I answer, your question about relationships and, we're worried about that, etc. Let me just ask you to just, step back a bit, and maybe whoever is on the chat also step back a bit and just understand where the child is right now. Okay, the child is a tween or is a teen. Okay, so you're going right up from the ages of 12 right up to say 19, 20. And this is a huge transition period for the child. Okay, a child is going from a child to an adult. And change in this human being is at its peak. And those changes that we see that's happening to them, for some reason, is not cute to us anymore. It's not like, I'm feeding a baby with something and the baby just spits it out and like, oh, it's so cute or whatever. Or, I'm feeding something and the baby takes something and throws it and I will very patiently go down and pick it up and whatever and say, oh, it's a baby. Now, these changes that are happening to the same child are changes that are also challenging us. So we are not comfortable either, right? And this change that is happening, what is this change that's happening? It's happening on many levels. So we have the main change that's happening is the hormonal change, right? It's leading to body changes, something that sometimes kids are not comfortable with what's changing in their bodies, right? And why are they not comfortable? Because the poor things think that this is how I'm going to look for the rest of my life. And everybody is just going to make fun of me, or they're going to bully me, or they're going to tease me, etc. But when we also talk to kids and talk to them about the fact that this is a transition period and your body needs 10 years, nearly 10 years, to transition from and to prepare yourself to become an adult, the changes that happen are not permanent. They are going to change. You're not going to look like how you looked at 12, at 19, you're going to look very different, okay? And you will look back and you'll say, oh my God, really, I was such a gawky kid at 12. But now, I'm happy at the way I look, right? So hormonal changes are something that the kids are battling with, okay? Mentally, their brain is developing. However, the prefrontal cortex of the brain, okay, it's situated right in front here. It doesn't really fully develop till the child is 19, right up to their mid-20s to late 20s. And why is this prefrontal cortex very important? Because this is the site in the brain that is responsible for decision-making and risk-taking, right? So you're finding that your kid is being moody, is being, once they're saying one thing, then they say something else, then they come back to what they're saying. So they're very indecisive. They don't see risks before they do something, and you're like, my God, what were you thinking? But they're not thinking because it's not developed. So you can't expect them to behave like an adult or behave like you or behave like a child who was born from you, and you think that you gave birth to the most perfect child, right? Who can think straight and has a lot of common sense, etc. But this is natural. It's happening to all children, right? Further, emotions are now getting the better of them, and they also are very confusing to them because they've never felt these emotions before. They don't know where they're coming from. They don't know how to handle it, right? No one speaks openly about these emotions. So what happens? They think it's only happening to them. And therefore, they go also into a shell because they think, oh my gosh, I've become this real weirdo that, maybe nobody likes. They're also looking for acceptance from their friends, right? Their behavior becomes unpredictable and moody because of this, because they're trying to gain understanding about what's happening to them. So they're dealing with all that, right? They're also trying to deal with emotions of, say, pleasure, anxiety, okay, curiosity, exploration. They want to explore their own bodies, okay, attraction, fear, fear of rejection among their friend circle, from their parents. They don't want to be rejected by their parents. They don't want to be judged by their parents as if they're doing something wrong. And also the emotions that are taking over their bodies are the romantic feelings, that they are feeling attracted to the opposite sex. Okay, so these feelings for them are very intense and overwhelming. And sometimes if they are not, you don't give them a channel to talk about or to express themselves, they just, unfortunately, they have nowhere to go. And then what do? They don't talk to you, but they will talk to their peers, Why? Because their peers are going through the same thing that they are going through. So they vibe with them. They're on the same, wavelength as them. They speak the same jargon, etc. They understand each other really well. And they feel that their parent cannot do that at that point of time. On top of that, the parent is there telling them you have academics to look after, you've got to be good at your extracurricular activities. They're dealing also with peer pressure, they're dealing with forging relationships now. So it's not just friends, but these are relationships that they're forging with different people, and they could be platonic or they could be romantically inclined. Plus social media is feeding them with so much of stuff. Okay. And their friend circle basically becomes their library of resources. The parent no longer plays the front role that you always did till they reach this age. And that's very sad for the parent, I know. But you have to understand that at different stages of your life, different people are priorities in your life. It doesn't mean that you are forgotten as a parent, but it's just that now studies don't mean anything to them right now. Okay, that's the last thing on their minds right now. For them, their bodies, attractions, emotions, all that is primary. So when you're telling them to study, they're like, what are you talking about? Right? And many times when you're telling them to do stuff, etc., they kind of, roll their eyes at you, etc., because that's not what they're really interested in at the moment. And you need to understand that, right? And I think the more we understand that, the more we can talk with them and level with them and tell them, hey, listen, we know what you're going through, because we also went through the same thing, and it's difficult. And sympathize with them, empathize with them, tell them, it's not easy what you all are going through. But it in life, we can't only live in silos. We can't only take care of only one part of our lives. We've got to also, learn how to manage the different areas of our lives. So when you are reaching this age of adolescence, you have to learn how to balance. And this is a beautiful lesson in teaching them how to balance things in life. Yeah.
Dr. Fiona, it's like definitely this age is confusing, and the age of dating and having sex has really moved backwards.
Correct.
Yeah, earlier maybe it was 18, so now it's like I'm hearing that grade 8 kids, maybe grade 9 kids are doing everything. So how do we tell them that maybe this is the right age you should be getting into all this, and actually what is the right age of it? Because now
for
the
me,
dating comes with a lot of extra things which were not there earlier.
Right, absolutely. And the media too is, aiding that and abetting in getting that age group to experience things to a much lower age group. So, Minal, I'll just ask you, what is a date for you? What do you understand by a date?
Having a girlfriend, maybe, I don't know. I feel, I don't know. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
for me, it was like having a friend, girlfriend, boyfriend. But now I feel now the date is like first sex, then date or something, then go out together. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah. So basically, when you say, you're dating somebody, we're social beings and we like to be in the company of other people. And when we reach the age of adolescence, etc., we tend to, get attracted specifically to a particular person. And why is that? Because we like something about that person, right? Whether it's the way they look or the way they walk or a particular part of their body that you like, or, something attracts you to that other person. And what do you want to do when you date? You want to spend more and more time with that person, right? Is it natural? Is it healthy? Of course it is. I mean, that is extremely, in my view, it is extremely important for children to forge relationships. And you can call them dating and you can call them, platonic or whatever you want, but it's very important for them to forge relationships. Why? They're going to marry this person. They're not going to settle down or run away with this person right now, right? They are exploring also. And why is it important to explore? I'll come back to your point later, but I just want to like kind of try and see what dating is all about. The person that they like is not somebody that they're going to end up with, and we as parents, we get really uh, anxious, right? First of all, we're saying you're too young, you shouldn't be doing this at this age, you should be concentrating on your academics. And that is what I do tell children. I tell them that at this time of their lives, their brains are like sponges, so anything that they're learning is going in and it's going to be retained for the rest of their lives, some in detail and some on the surface, but that learning is going to go inside their brain. And therefore they have to take the most opportunity right now to learn as much as they can, and that's why they're in school right now and not outside or working in an office. Okay. There is a time and place for everything, and right now, yes, apart from learning and taking all that in, there is another side of your life is also developing, and that is the forging of relationships. Okay, you're starting off with relationships, and it is very important for them to forge these relationships. Why? Because when they date or when they forge a relationship with somebody, they get to know the person better. They get to know what they like about the person, what they don't like about the person. Maybe that person is not nice to be friends with. You thought you were very excited and you had this big crush on the person or whatever, and you're very excited. Or it may be even a platonic relationship where you're really good friends with the person, and then you find the person really doesn't have the same set of values that you do, or doesn't think the way you do, and you move away. This makes them consciously make choices to move away from relationships which may not be healthy for them. Okay, because you don't want them to become adults, get into the first relationship they get to is going to be an abusive relationship, and they're stuck there and they don't know how to get out of it. Yeah. So this actually, dating really paves the way for them to make their decisions later on. Yeah. So I think it's positive. It's not something that we need to be worried about. However, if you look at dating, it's very much like looking for a job. Okay, when you look for a job, what do you do when you look for a job? You are looking for something that is best suited for you. It makes you happy. It brings out the best from you, right? So you are looking for that, and then you think you find something, and you join that particular company, and then you realize that no, on the contrary, this environment is very toxic. I don't like this environment. I need to get out. Okay, and you do, and then you go and you get another job that is more suited for you, and then you figure out that maybe in the next job you see that the people were not very happy with you, but you were okay with them. So it kind of mimics what relationships also are, right? Sometimes you have one person very interested, one party interested, the other party is not interested. And you need to understand, respect, and move away from that if the person is not, wanting to engage in that relationship. And so with the job too, you're going from till you find your best fit. And when you find your best fit, you find that you stay with that job for the longest period of time, right? So dating is very much like that. It's preparing you to finally meet somebody who would be that best fit for you. Okay. But navigating through that dating, yes, is extremely important. And that guidance not only, but I think it majorly can come from you, can come from a parent. But you have to do it cleverly in a way that, they're not really seeing that you are also guiding them. Yeah. So what I would say is very important in forging good relationships is that right from the beginning, communication is key. that line of communication between your child and you, maybe from the time that they're small, is very important. And what kind of communication am I talking about? It's not like, what did you do today or whatever. That is like every day. But in case they do express feeling sad or hurt, we just say, oh, don't worry, it'll go away. It's okay. It'll, don't worry, it's all right or whatever. And we try to quell whatever they're feeling. Rather, it makes more sense to make them talk about what they're feeling by asking them many questions. Why are you feeling this? How did this happen? What is it making you feel? What do you think you can do not to feel like this? So you are getting them to start expressing their emotions. And when you express your emotions and tell the other person how you feel, you are actually guiding them and how to navigate through relationships when they do get into relationships, where they can express themselves and they can tell the other person how they're feeling. Otherwise, they're just going to bottle everything up and just, result in a big, huge blow up at one point of time, or mental health issues, right? Which you don't want to happen when they grow. So get them into the habit of expressing themselves. And why is that expressing also very important? Because you want to prevent them from getting into abusive relationships. And why do I say this? Why do you want them to express? Because when they're in an abusive relationship, first of all, you need to basically have them express how they're feeling in that relationship, whether it is to you or to a friend, so that they know that this person is, in something that may be dangerous for them, okay, or maybe not be good for them. And you are just getting them to express themselves, so that if they are in 4 types of kind of scenarios, okay, in a relationship, they know that they need to get out of there. Okay, one is whether they're being physically harmed. Okay, they need to first of all tell the other person that, listen, it's hurting me, don't do it. Or need to tell somebody is hurting me. Secondly, you have a lot of relationships where you have an unequal show of play of power, right? Where you have the other one person has unhealthy control over the other, whether it's possessiveness, whether it is in financial, in your financial interactions, or you're being threatened, or you're being bullied into something. So that is exerting power. The third thing is, if somebody really makes you feel bad about yourself, so it doesn't bring out the best in you, constantly putting you down, that is not a very healthy relationship to be in, okay? Because you're going to have so many complexes inside that, and you're not going to know how to express yourself and how to get out of it. And the fourth one I would say is, if you are in a relationship where you're being made to feel uncomfortable to do certain things, or certain things being done to you without your consent, then the child must know what really, that is unhealthy. Okay.
Right.
So for positive relationships, you need to make sure that the child knows how to express themselves, so that they don't get into these kind of unhealthy relationships. Now, how do we do that? We do that by actually exemplifying for the child through our behavior. Okay, we as parents need to talk and walk the talk, actually. So you need to practice what you preach. If you're telling them not to do something, then you need to make sure that you're also following that, even in your relationships, and show them that there can be love in a relationship, but there can also be disagreements and there can be arguments. But what is important is that you respect the other person. You can disagree, you can be in total disagreement with the other person, but know how to respect the person and come away saying, okay, we are agreeing to disagree. Okay, so that shows them that, this is how a healthy relationship also, functions. They should be able to trust the fact that, trust the other person. And how do they build that trust? The trust first comes from you as a parent, where they have that trust in you, that if they come and tell you something, that you're not going to go and tell the whole world and the whole family and everybody knows about it, and they feel so small and they feel so embarrassed. You want them to be able to say, okay, if I go and tell my mom, or I go and tell my dad, or whichever parent or a trusted adult, I know that they're going to believe me, and they're going to keep that to themselves without any judgment. So I think that is very important. That they're able to come to you and tell you about what they are going through or what they're feeling, because it's something that children are going to go through in, when they're in relationships. And this is the upper or the top part of the relationship we're talking about, when they're getting to know each other, etc. But I think it's very important, when you know that your child is dating, or you're anticipating that they're going to date. These are conversations that I think are also extremely important to have with children, and tell them, what are, as I listed out, what are positive behaviors, what are negative behaviors, things that make you feel uncomfortable, etc., so that, they know that they shouldn't be pressurized into doing anything. And when I say pressurized into doing anything, here I mean where, uh, the sexual urge in a child is so high that they tend to want to explore and experiment, which is fine. It's not wrong, but what is very important for them to understand are what are boundaries. Okay, what are the lines that cannot be crossed? What does consent mean? Okay, why is consent so important? When they understand when they understand these these kind of values, and the fact that, these behaviors are a must to have in a relationship, you will find that, are we on still, or am I
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay?
Everybody listening to you very.
Okay, all right, I couldn't see you, that's why I was wondering. Yeah. um Sorry, where was I?
Yeah, we're talking about the dating bit now. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the kids see that these are things like consent and boundaries are extremely important when you are navigating through a sexual part of a relationship, I think it is uh, they will make informed choices. You can leave it up to them really to make the correct choice. um, it's amazing that we do not give children enough credit uh, for their intelligence, but this doesn't happen overnight. This happens when you are constantly chatting with the kid uh, in an open relationship where they can come and say anything, and it is accepted without any judgment. It's accepted without any your conditioning that is playing a role, or your biases that are playing a role in reacting to what they're telling you, etc. When you talk to them about dating and the other side of dating, as in, dating, you may like the person a lot, and at first it may just be meeting them, seeing them, etc. After that, it may be, wanting to hold hands, maybe even kissing, is fine. And you may want to talk to them also about, the fact that every human being has sexual urges, but sometimes it is important to understand what those sexual urges can lead to. First of all, there is a time and place for everything. Uh, the timing right now may not be the best for a sexual encounter. The reason being, the body itself is not completely ready and prepared for it. Okay, the female body's vagina is still developing. All right. You're talking to them about vaginal intercourse, you're talking to them about anal intercourse, okay, because sexual orientation of children need also to be addressed, because right now that's what they're also exploring. They're also trying to figure out their sexual orientation. And parents, I feel, need to be open about this and be a little more, I think, educated about sexual orientation and sexuality, because it is the most natural thing, and it is something that we need to accept. All these years we haven't accepted it, and we've made it a taboo topic, and we've made it, we've shunned people of other genders, which is something that also will make a child not want to come and talk to you, because they're feeling differently. They're not feeling like the binary, right? And because they're not feeling like the binary, they're like, oh my God, if I go and talk to my parents about this, they will have an absolute cow. But the very fact that you're accepting of what they are going through or what they are feeling is something that will also make them approach relationships in a very different way too.
Right.
The importance of talking to them about dating, as you said, a lot of that, sex is involved in dating. A lot of the sex education of the children today, because not very many people talk to them openly, and sex education is done in such a haphazard way in most schools, and parents don't want to talk to their kids. They give it to the school to talk to the kid about sex education. So even though, your child may say, yeah, they told me about it, how much did they tell you? What details do you know, right? So where is the sexual education coming from? Pornography, right? And unfortunately, pornography gives you a wrong kind of an idea of what the actual sexual act and the emotions involved, the physical, the physicality involved, etc. It gives you a totally warped picture of it. But that is the only education they have. So they want to mimic that with somebody, right? And their sexual urges and sexual tensions that they have is so high that that's what they're looking forward to. Another thing is why boys also don't want to share very much, because that's topmost on their mind. Now, how are they going to tell you or tell their mother that, what, these sexual urges that, I want to masturbate, or I feel I really wish I could have my penis put inside a vagina and know what that feeling is. That is topmost in their mind, right? Or I want to feel how a female's breasts feel like, or the other way around, but here I'm talking about boys being more secretive, because that really is topmost in their head right now. Whereas, girls are more into the emotion part of it, and, I would say the love part of it or whatever. But girls are changing also. They're also becoming a little more physical in their encounters with. So I don't think we can put stereotype boys and girls into these kind of behaviors. Yeah. But what I wanted to tell you was that what happens when you are engaging in sex is that you need to know the consequences of any action that you do, right? So one needs to talk to them about sex, the actual sexual act. Why does one do it? With whom does one do it, etc. Openly. And secondly, the consequences. What are the consequences of a sexual encounter? The first thing is pleasure. You cannot forget that, and you cannot forget to tell them that, because that is what makes the sexual the sexual relationship something that you want to engage in again and again and again. Why? Because it brings you pleasure. Okay. Now, one of the byproducts of that pleasure is pregnancy. Okay, you bring another child into this world so that the human race doesn't get extinct. But that's okay if you have planned that kid and you want that kid, etc. But if you're only doing it for pleasure and you had no plans of any kids there, and then a pregnancy comes about, what are you going to do then, right? What are the things that you need to think about in case you do get pregnant? Your life really changes, yeah? There are a lot of decisions you have to take. You want to keep the child or want to keep the child? How do you want to do this? And, both the boy and the girl are involved in this entire relationship. So if a pregnancy comes out of that, they both need to think it out together, and they're really very young to do that, right? They need to have a support system to help them also think through it. Apart from that, you basically are telling them this is a consequence, and therefore you want to, if you're going to engage in sex, you need to engage in safe sex. And what is safe sex? Please use a condom, right? But you also want to talk to them and about how to use a condom also. Just don't say that, use a condom. Tell them everything they need to know about that condom, whether they want to hear it or they don't want to hear it. You then have to also talk to them about another very important topic, which is STIs, which are sexually transmitted infections. And this is where you talk about them having safer sex, okay? So you may wear a condom, but you may wear a condom not to have a pregnancy. But you also have to save each other and, protect each other, not save each other, protect each other from any sexual transmitted infections. And a condom helps you do that. It's not 100%, but it helps you do that. You do not want to get into a situation where you have a sexually transmitted infection and you got to deal with that for the rest of your life. If it is, somewhat treatable, but it will linger with you for the longest time, or it could be something that is fatal, right? So once you explain to children, not children, young adults, young, teenagers, what are the, what can happen? And here I'm not only talking about a relationship with the binary, with a, a boy and a girl. It could be a girl and a girl, or a boy and boy, or, whoever you choose to have a relationship with, you have to still be very careful about sexually transmitted infections. Yes. So this is something that is a must chat to have with your kids once they start dating. They may come and tell you that they're dating, or you may come to know to somebody else, or you may come to know to the teacher, right? Because they say, they're falling in their academics, they're not doing as well as they used to do before, etc. And that's okay to, tell your kid that, hey, listen, I have come to know through your teacher that, you seem to have some, fondness for a particular person. And it's fine, it's natural. I think it's really lovely that you like that person, and I would love to know what you like about that person. But I've also had this kind of a concern from your teacher saying that your studies are getting affected as a result, right? So you're telling the child that you are not saying don't date, but you're just talking about a concern that has been voiced. And I think it's best, right, in this kind of a scenario, to put the ball in the child's court and just say, hey, listen, so, it's fine. You want to date, that's great. If you want to have this, you're forging this this friendship, etc. But, I know how good you are at your studies. I know how capable you are. And if you think that you can handle both at the same time, fabulous. I don't have a problem with that. But if seems to be a problem, then why don't you come up with some sort of way in which you think you can handle both? And the person, they may say, I don't want to talk about it, and just get off. Say, okay, think about it, and then let's talk about it later. And maybe the next week, give them that space. Let them mull over it. Let them realize that you also know about the fact that they're dating, and that actually you're positive about it. You don't have a problem. You're just asking them to come up with a solution, right? Because when the onus is on them, they will make sure that they deliver.
Right. So, Dr. Fiona, we didn't realize it is already 1 hour. It's 5
Wow.
o'clock. And we have so many audience questions, whereas I see a lot of questions. You guys can put it. Dr. Fiona, if like whenever you have time, can the audience write their questions on the Facebook chat box, and can you answer them later whenever you have time?
Sure.
Okay. So one question we'll take quickly right now. And since we're already crossing the time, I am a dad to a daughter who's very private and is not expressive at all. My wife is extremely conservative, and I cannot imagine her talking to her daughter about the subject. So, any advice on that? So, we'll do it.
I would ask the dad to talk to the daughter. There's nothing wrong in a father talking to a daughter about the same thing that a mother would talk to the daughter. It's as that'll make it even more natural. I mean, I can tell you as I say, practice what you preach. My daughter has these really open conversations with my husband, and it's wonderful to see that they can chat about everything, from periods to, okay, I've got cramp pain, can you please buy me pads, or can you get medicine for me, or when she's come home, after meeting her boyfriend or whatever, she's had a chat with her father and said how it went, or why not? Why can't the father also play an equal role? Why does it have to be stereotypically the mother who has to have the conversation?
Right. So basically, all of us are actually exploring these things now, because I feel we are a generation जहाँ पे वो जो switch आया है ना, वो बहुत जल्दी आ गया. Like, from we as children and we as parents, I feel the world has changed like a lot in these years because of social media and all. However, one more question: what to do when you find your 16-year-old reading porn or adult content book?
It's natural. It's natural they're going to do it, but talk to them about it. Just ask them, talk to them about the kind of sometimes the dangers of porn. Okay, how it can become an addiction, how it can ruin your sexual life later on. Okay, so it's important to accept the fact that they're watching porn. It's okay, but it cannot consume them. That is important. And for it not to consume them, you need to have a conversation with them about it, because otherwise they don't know any better. They're being exposed to it for the first time.
Right. So, Damini, you've written Delano. Damini, do you want to say something?
Yeah, hi, doctor. Just wanted to ask you, both my wife and I were listening into your conversation, and how do you inculcate values in your children with respect to dating or sex? Sometimes, you just wonder whether our values need any kind of upgrade or update to today's values, or is it the same? I know you've covered a lot in your conversation, but any kind of thought?
Yeah, so you're very right when you say we need to update, because times have changed, and what were the dating scenes when we met our prospective, our partners, very different from what is allowed now. A lot of right now, social media also is feeding so much into their lives, right? Peer pressure is feeding so much into their lives. At our time, everybody was on the same plane. All families were on the same page, kind of thing. It's different. And therefore, yes, we need to update. But I think what is the most important about dating is basically to have conversations with your child and find out about different dating, avenues. I do that all the time. I'm so, taken up by Tinder and Bumble and all these things. I don't understand very much about it, but who has really educated me about it are my kids. And they tell me and they explain things to me. you also you may find that you have found out about somebody else dating and what experience they had and how it wasn't very pleasant or whatever. And those are good experiences, not to gloat over, but to use to chat about, see, this is what can happen. These are the consequences of what can happen. So those open dialogues to have with your kid, I think, is one of the ways in which we can also update ourselves about dating, and also they can understand from us. I'm not saying to give in to everything that this generation wants to do. Keep your values, keep certain, there are certain non-negotiable rules in the family, each family has, and stick to that. uh, don't compromise on that, because you're the parent, and you can, I mean, that's what I tell my kids. I said, i'm your I'm your parent for the first time. I'm your parent till the age of 18 and 21, or 21, whichever, I choose to be your parent, till where I'm responsible for you. And after that, it's your choice. But till then, I need to guide you, and I can only guide you through things that I feel are good for you, and also through your own, as I said, exemplify through your behavior, because they're watching you at all times, and they are absorbing it like through osmosis, and becomes a part of their DNA. So that is very important, to be the example to your child. I always feel a parent becomes a better person when they become a parent, because they need to be that example.
So, thank you, Dr. Fiona, for answering those questions. And there are many more, but we already we crossed the time, so we'll have to end the show here. I'm very, very sorry, audience. You can put your questions in the Facebook comment section. We'll try and answer them. So, thank you all for joining us today. Thank you, Dr. Fiona. It was lovely listening to you, and I think you have actually, guided us, really you made it easy, I would say, even for me, and I really like those tips that you shared, that 4 things in a relationship to look out for and to be careful about. I think that is the first thing I'm going to talk to them about after the show. No, yes, because yeah, because there are a lot of things, there are a lot of subjects that we need to talk about it, and we have.
And it may not be with the opposite sex, but it could be even with another friend, that they
Right.
need to look out for that. Yeah.
Right. And it is, and another thing that I've understood is it's never too late, Nahi kara to
Absolutely.
ab kar lo baat. But
Absolutely.
start somewhere, bring it, like the conversation should, around something. Maybe you don't breach the subject directly. So
And be patient. Yeah. Be
yeah,
patient, because
yeah,
nothing happens overnight.
yeah. And they will open up gradually. And it's
They
okay to
will.
discuss about your life
Yeah.
also. That's what I feel.
Absolutely.
Talking about your life
Absolutely.
will open up. So
Can I ask you where I can answer all these questions, because I have no clue?
we'll send you the link.
Okay, and I just answered it on that.
Yeah, they will write in the comment box. Facebook पे हम अभी भी live है ना, so there is, so that portion. So we'll share you the Facebook link. You just type in the answer, so that'll be really helpful to them, because they are so
Absolutely, I'll be very,
very
very happy to do
interesting.
that. Yeah, I think I put up a few of the resources that you can look at.
Yeah.
Uh,
So Damini, please, we'll put that on our Facebook chat as well, so that everybody can take a note of that. So thank you guys for joining us today and staying throughout the show. Dr. Fiona was awesome. You audience were awesome. Follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. We are everywhere, and we try to bring you relevant shows. So even in the comment section, you guys can suggest what is the next topic you want to talk about. We'll make sure that we'll get something that you are concerned about. So see you guys. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fiona.